Hello, I'm Carol Talbot, the creator and founder of the Possibility Hub, and in this episode, John Paul Fischbach talks about vision quests from a shamanic perspective and why you would want to do one. Hello, John Paul. Today we're back talking about vision questing, taking those extraordinary journeys, a journey in the outer world, but very much a journey in the inner world. So let's start at the beginning. Why would people want to do a vision quest? And maybe some people need to know what a vision quest is.
Sure. Okay. So a vision quest is going on a quest for a vision, right? So in native Canadian language, it's called crying for a vision. So you're going out in the wilderness and you're crying, you're begging for a vision. You're saying, please, I need guidance. I need to understand. So I love that phrase, crying for a vision, as opposed to just questing, like, well, maybe it'll happen. So I love the idea that you're going to go out into the wilderness to cry for a vision and to beg for a vision and to plead for a vision. So there are various versions of a vision quest. But it's about being in an unfamiliar surrounding for some period of time. And you're hoping that what will happen is that you will reveal your personal truth. So if you're looking for, what is my purpose? What is my real personal truth? That you're asking for that. You're crying for that awareness and for spiritual clarity. So at some level of spiritual clarity and personal experience, personal truth. So I think those are the two things. If that's what you're after, then a vision quest is the appropriate ceremony to do.
So you're saying it's a ceremony. Is it something you do with other people? Can you do a vision quest? Because my understanding was it's usually a journey that you do alone, as you said, to somewhere unfamiliar.
The experience, you must do it alone. So the actual experience of the quest, however long that is, and we can talk about various versions of that, but that experience is done as a solo experience. But what's really good is to have someone facilitate it. So in a traditional native situation, that you do a sweat before, then you go out into nature and you spend your 4 days and your 4 nights out by yourself in nature. And then when you come back, you have an integration sweat. So there are people that support you and look after it. So I think it's good to have some kind of a coach, because it's a profound experience and you want to talk about it. You want to integrate it. You want to say, this is what happened to me. And then there was this, and then this, this eagle fell dead at my feet, or, whatever happens to you.
So when you say a sweat before, you're talking about going into a sweat lodge before and afterwards, right? Just to sort of cleanse, and then you go. And for many of the vision quests I've come across, you also do not eat during those 4 days.
Right. So there's a couple different parts to that. So I think we could go down kind of what's included. The most important thing for a vision quest is preparation. You don't just decide, I think I'm going to vision quest tomorrow. Chances are it'll be a disaster. So it's something that it's niggling away at you. So part of your preparation is, I've got this, I really feel like I need to do this. I really need to find my personal truth. I really need to connect with spirit in a bigger way, whatever. And that starts to work away at you. So that's the beginning of your preparation. And then you have to be very clear on the purpose. Why am I doing this? What is it I really want? And I always say, if you don't know, and I just use a term out of business jargon, if you don't know what the measure of success is, don't do it. If you can't say, I want to come out of this vision quest with a clear image of my purpose. I want to come out of this with my healing song. I want to come out of this with, you have to have the measure of success that you're after, because you're crying for that. That's what you want. And the vision quest isn't over till you get that thing, or you understand why you can't have that thing, or you get something better. But you have to go in with a purpose. And I often say to people, be really pragmatic. The purpose is the measure of success. If the vision quest is successful, you'll come out with your song. You'll come out with your totem. You'll come out with, So I think preparation is the bracket around the whole experience.
Now, when you finished your year and a day, of being passed from tribe to tribe to tribe during your sort of first series of initiation, and then you were sent on a vision quest. Was that the first vision quest you'd ever done, or had you come across this before?
That was the first thing that I ever did that I knew was a vision quest. So to be in terms of preparation, yes, I think there were experiences before that that included fasting and isolation and all those kinds of things, but it wasn't a vision quest as an intentional thing that I'm doing. But when this happened, it was clear that at the end of this year and a day, you must go on this vision quest. And my measures of success were, I had to come back with my purpose, my method of healing, my healing song, and my medicine wheel of the 4 animals. And I had to have those, or, I got an F in my apprenticeship.
You didn't get the pass mark. And did you get all of those? I assume you did.
I did.
Okay.
And it was just amazing. And it was a brilliant experience. So in my experience, it was 4 days and 4 nights. So you're taken out to an area in nature that your guides or your teacher knows is a safe area, right? You don't go in, you don't put someone in the path that the grizzly bears go every day. You don't there was a vision quest experience that I helped facilitate in the Grand Canyon, and there was a rattlesnake den over here. So you don't put the people there, you put the people over there. So you don't just go say, oh, well, this is somewhere in the wild, I'll just make camp here. You want to know that you're being put in a place that's safe-ish, right? What's going to happen spiritually is up for grabs, but you don't put someone on an ant's nest or that kind of stuff. So it's a bit of practical.
So if you're left alone, say if it's a group and you're each left in a certain place, does the person who's facilitating that experience, the shaman, check in on that person, maybe from a distance, or maybe check on you? Because it's one of those things that seems, oh, wonderful, I just need some space, I need to get away. And yet, as we know, most people are such busy doers that to sit and be, may sound everybody's dream. But I would imagine halfway through the 3rd hour, it's like, well, now what?
Yeah. So that's one of the things so let me go through there's 4 parts to it. So when you're considering a vision quest, there's location, intention, isolation, and a measure of success. So location we've kind of covered up. Intention is pretty clear. Isolation is what we're talking about, to say, how confined is this space? So for some people, you put up your flags in the 4 directions and you create a circle and you say, this is my protection. And you put that down and you say, I'm going to stay within this circle. And some vision quests are very strict. And it's like, no, you must stay in this circle for 4 days. Mine wasn't. Mine was create this circle because that's where you're going to do your meditation. That's where you're going to do your ceremonies. That's where you're going to do. But, if spirit says, walk to the river, go walk to the river.
Okay, so you could go off hiking and come back to your space. You could go to, as you said, the river and things, and then come back, except you've got your space.
Yeah. So for me, it was because I'm pretty comfortable out in nature. So it was fine to say, you can leave your camp, but you must go because you're being called. So I was on my own honor system to say, am I going for a hike because I'm bored? Or am I being called to that thing? And if you're called, then you go. Otherwise, you sit because it's suffering. You're crying for a vision. You're going to stay there and suffer until you get it. You're not having a fabulous holiday in the mountains and hoping that somebody whispers something nice to you.
No, there's an intention. So it's would you say that in some ways it's almost like a shortened version of when, the monks go off into the caves for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to meditate, except this is a condensed experience that challenges you. And what about the different times of day, I would imagine, would also challenge you. To be all night outside in nature, for many people, that's really pushing their comfort zone in terms of the sounds that you're not familiar with, and pushing the kind of like the fight or flight buttons, I would imagine, as well, of hearing sounds that you're not used to hearing because you're not out in rural nature and used to the sounds of the night.
Yeah. So it depends who's leading it. When I lead it for people, I let them have a tent, because most of the people that I have led on a vision quest are city folk. And as you say, they're not used to this. So that level of safety just calms them down. It doesn't seem to interfere anything. And I don't think there's anything to be gained by staying up all night and being scared.
Yes.
Because tomorrow night, you're still going to be scared. And the third night, you're still going to be scared because you're not familiar with the forest at night. And particularly in Australia, because all of our animals are nocturnal.
Ah, right. Yes. So it's busy.
Busy at night. And, that's just exhausting for people on Vision Quest in Australia, because it's the nature comes alive at night. So I let people have a tent. I also let people have a fire, but it's a fire that you're going to use for ceremony and, as stuff comes up, because it is this personal truth experience and you're just by yourself. You're with you and your thoughts. That's it. So when stuff comes up, you might want to do a little fire ceremony like we did. And, you've got your little sticks and your leaves and you're like, okay, let's get rid of that. And, so as that stuff comes up, you want to have those kinds of ceremonies that that you can use, and you've got the elements around you.
So are there sort of guidelines on what you can take with you and what you cannot? So obviously I'm assuming that any electronic devices are a complete no. It really is a complete time to switch off. And I'm also wondering if there's any other, are they allowed to take matches and candles and other things? Or is it, this is how you build a fire, this is how you light the fire. So they're also taught those skills as well.
Yeah. So the whole idea is to be in an unfamiliar situation. So you and I'll have to remember that we want to talk about what's the urban version of this. If you can't get to nature, what is that? So we'll remind ourselves that we'll cover that as well. But in my experience and how I lead them is that they can take nothing. You have the clothes on your back, and you have, depending on the time of year, you might be able to have a blanket, which you can use to wrap around. You can use whatever, but it's as unfamiliar as can be possible. And then I give them things. I said, here's your water, and this is the amount of water, so you have to be careful, because I'm not giving you 2 liters a day. I usually give them 5 liters, which isn't a lot.
The whole 4 days, yes.
The whole 4 days. And it's a 5-liter container. I said, so be careful. This is it. This is what you can have. And then I give them matches. I give them no. So I give them matches. I give them sage. I give them cedar. I give them some little charcoal briquettes. In order to, when they make their area, they have to go get kindling. So you have to go forage for the kindling and all that sort of stuff. And we make sure that they know how to do all that. I help them create the stone control for the fire ring, because we have, in Australia, it's grasses everywhere. And if the grass fire catches, it's all very bad. So we build that up and we pack that up so that nothing's going to, start a grass fire around, so that you're as protected as you can be. But they get no flashlight. So, but a part of that teaching is that in the old time, we didn't have electric light.
Yes, of course.
When the sun went down, you were with the stars, and those were your friends. And you were as familiar with the stars as you were with the trees during the daytime. So, it's about getting familiar with that light at night.
Yes, and I guess also adjusting your vision so that you can see in the dark, and your eyes do adjust.
They do.
One of the programs I was due to go on at the beginning of all of the last couple of years, and it got cancelled at the last minute, was a 12-day darkroom retreat in Thailand. And
Wow.
the building is purpose built that it's complete blackout. So you can imagine that, you know, with you know, a number of people going, ow, oh, oof, you know, bumping into things the first couple of days until your eyes adjust. And,
Yeah.
you know, and we know from plant medicine experiences that many of those are best done when it's pitch black. And yet, you know, because you're in an altered state, you see things as clear as day. You really do see things effortlessly and easily. So I would imagine if you're fasting, you're in a strange environment, you go into, I would imagine in a couple of days, you go into altered states and can see things from a completely different perspective, which is again the point, to come back with, you know, your vision, the quest for your vision.
Yeah, I would say about half the people that I've led are surprised when they see me at dawn on what would be day 5. When they see me at sunrise, they're quite surprised. Like, oh, so they've been in an altered state. They've been aware of light and dark and night and day, but they've lost count of the days. Which is beautiful. That's what you want to have happen.
Do you get them to prepare through detoxing and cleansing their body before? Because again, having taken people through cleanses, you know, if people are big coffee drinkers and used to certain foods, their body goes into all sorts of tension and release. I always feel really blessed because I don't like coffee, so I don't drink coffee. I see people sort of having this, you know, big coffee, sort of, I need my fix of coffee in the morning. So I would imagine the first, is it the first 24 hours is kind of really tough for people, and then they get into a rhythm and a routine.
Yep, I would say that, you know, there's about 20% of the people, 25% of the people that show up at base camp somewhere in the night of the first night. They're in full tears. They feel a failure. It's all a disaster. I couldn't do it. I'm too scared. So yeah.
And then
that does happen.
What happens when at least they know they can get to base camp, they're too scared? Do those people normally, once they've been at base camp, go back? Or do you find another way to help them have a powerful experience? Or maybe that is the powerful experience, you know, in just admitting this is too much for me, because again, most of us have this need and urge to win. And I remember in one sweat lodge, I made a decision to come out after the second round. And I've gone the full, you know, all the rounds in sweat lodges, and I can push myself. And I just thought, no, Carol, this is also about honoring yourself and saying it's okay.
Yeah. No, so you have a big debrief around the fire. So you do a little ceremony around the fire, and you do a big debrief about, is this limits? You know, is this a limit that needs to be pushed? Is this a limit that is important? So you unpack, because it's huge for them to bail. You know, they've prepped, they've done everything correctly, so it's a big deal if they bail. So you're as compassionate as you can, and you try to unpack the whole thing, but they can't go back. They can't say, okay, I feel better now, I'll go back.
Okay. No. So it's almost like the gate closed.
Yeah, so I say, look, what you're gonna do is you're gonna help me with base camp. And the thing that's beautiful about that is because they observe the other people. So we never are in distance where anyone could, you know, see us. So we do our best to, you know, peek around and see that they're okay. So it's about looking and seeing how other people are managing. And then usually when the next opportunity for Vision Quest, they're unbelievably good. They're so strong and so together, because it was just, you know, for whatever reason, it was too much.
Yes,
and if it's too much,
somebody else going through something without it creating shifts and changes in yourself. So maybe that's also part of the beautiful journey for them.
Yeah. So I said, look, this is what needed to happen. So, with spirit, you always get what you needed to have. So this is what you needed to have. So the clarity, revealing your personal truth was part of what you came here for. So now you know something about your personal truth in terms of limits and tolerance. And so you make a little, you record that. Oh, so the other thing they get is they get a journal. They can have a journal, sorry.
Okay.
So they get a journal and a pencil and a pen, because that would be really sucky if you couldn't write, having all these cool things happen.
You've given me the
So
book.
I guess,
I can't do anything with it.
yeah. So I think if we look back at location, intention, isolation, and success. So location, we're talking about sacred space.
Yes.
So the important thing about that is to have a container. So in the contemporary experience, you might decide that a vision quest would be a float tank experience. You could use a float tank experience as a vision quest.
Yes,
you could prepare for it. You could have an intention, and that's a beautiful container. So as long as there's a container for it that says, this is the area of the vision quest. So if you decide you're going to do it in your urban setting, you want to clear a room, gut a room, take all the furniture out of it, remove everything off the walls, prepare that and say, this is my container for the vision quest. So as long as it's a container, then you want to make sure that there's an opportunity for connection. So the isolation of the float tank is your opportunity for connection. Because I'm removing all of that sensory, that's my opportunity to connect. If I'm taking everything out of that room, I'm going to leave the window open so that I can connect. Or I'm going to have a particular kind of incense that I'm going to use to connect. Or and then protection. So what are you going to do for protection? Because you're saying, I want all these things to come visit me, but I don't want the bad ones. I want the good ones. So that's my job. When I facilitate a vision quest, I look after that. And I keep them in a protective shield. I make sure that all the negative things, I'll battle those. They don't need to battle those. I'll take care of all that. So I look after the protection for the people that I quest with. But if you're doing it by yourself, or, it's important to have the protection. What are you going to do? Salt is one of the best things in the world. Put a circle of salt around and stay in that circle if you need protection. If you're using a room in your house, salt the threshold, across the threshold. Nothing crosses that.
Excellent.
So those are kind of, yep. And then I think intention, just to help in terms of intention, I think about the vision. What is the vision? Why do you need a vision? What's the purpose of the vision? What's the vision? Do you want allies? Are you trying to do a vision quest because your intention is to find some spiritual allies? Often a naming, very common, that in a vision quest, you're seeking your medicine name. You might need some more understanding. Life purpose, that's always a big one. I'm going to go a vision quest because I need to know my life's purpose. Or marking a life transition. Yes. Oftentimes people would go on a vision quest because I'm now divorced. I want to do a vision quest. I'm not going to have any more. I've decided I'm not having any more children. So, not without having surgery or anything. I've just made that decision. So I want to have a vision quest about, well, if I'm no longer a mother, what am I? What's my next life journey? And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And then some people do a vision quest because it's a specific healing. So I've had people with cancer do vision quest to say, we've got to do a healing. So I need to understand and have a personal healing through this experience. So that's kind of some suggestions for people about that idea of intention, that why you would do it. Isolation, we've covered, that has to be unfamiliar territory. You don't vision quest in some place that you're completely familiar with, because the environment isn't going to help you.
No, you want to be out of your comfort zone, and so that it's just you and the environment. And then, again, setting that intention and keeping that intention in mind as you go through those days. Now, you said people come for specific reasons, maybe a transition in their life. Do people often do vision quests I brought up this subject because we're coming towards the end of the year, the beginning of a new year. That's also another transition to sort of celebrate the year that's passed and also welcome in the new, or have your vision for the year. So are there certain times of year that are really more powerful for a vision quest?
I typically run them in the spring or the fall, but that's weather. It's just because of weather, really. To be vision questing at 45 degrees is not any fun, or -10 is not any fun. So that's typically when I do them, but also you like that energy of putting things to rest in the autumn and bringing things up in the spring. So let's tie in with that energy. I don't know that I've ever experienced a new year. Well, the new year is either in the spring or the fall equinox, depending on your particular culture. So I guess they are in the new year, in the old calendar, in the new year. I'm not aware of it happening across the January 1st period, but I think you're right. I think there is an important thing to be done about reflecting and what is my vision going forward. I think we should do mini vision, a little mini vision quest to put the year to bed and bring the new year out. So then that's the next thing in this isolation idea is setting a time. And it has to be time that's enough of a stretch. It can't be just an afternoon, or it has to be a stretch of time. So I think if you went in, if at the end of the calendar year, if you decided you were going to go into isolation for 48 hours, that could be pretty powerful.
Yes.
No communication, no phone, no anything. I'm setting 48 hours of isolation. I mean, it's kind of, if you think about Vipassana, kind of a vision quest.
Yes.
And it's stretched for 10 days.
Yes.
Of silence.
Yes.
So, yeah. I think that would be a cool thing to do.
Yes, I think it would be. And I thank you for giving us an opportunity that people can do it in an urban setting. And if you can get out into nature, into an unfamiliar territory, make sure that somebody is watching over you. So this isn't something you'd want to do alone, unless you're a very, excuse me, unless you're very seasoned and well-versed in being outside and in unfamiliar territories and know what to do. So good to know that there is somebody you may not see, but they are watching over you and making sure that you are safe. So it's location, intention, isolation, and then that success, coming back and celebrating that success with another sweat lodge and ceremony. Beautiful.
Yeah. And part of isolation is suffering. There has to be a level of suffering. So that's that crying for a vision piece. So typically it's fasting, right? I know that there are contemporary practices that say you're going to stay awake, and that's the suffering. You're going to stay awake for 36 hours. Or, you're going to push this level, this idea of suffering to some degree. And, I think as long as there's a bit of suffering, it's the same principle as the sweat lodge, that, there's suffering. And if there isn't a bit of suffering, you're not really going to break through. You're not going to really, So, and then I think, in part of your success, the guaranteeing your success is that you're going to call in the 7 directions. You're going to do some meditation. You're going to do some silence. And the most important thing that I tell everyone to do is, when you get bored, observe your thoughts.
Yes.
They will fascinate you for hours.
Ain't that the truth? Who needs a movie when there's different movies and dialogues going on up there? Absolutely sure. Thank you so much. A very interesting conversation, and I hope it's also inspired people to maybe consider taking a vision quest, to realign, to detox, to face your fears, to suffer for a breakthrough experience. Thank you so much.
And then they need to work with you. Then they need to work with you to integrate their experience.
Yes, totally. And we were talking about that as well. These peak experiences are wonderful. But again, the metaphor of the skin, the snake that sheds its skin and doesn't look back and think, oh, I wonder if that skin will still fit. I wonder if I should take it with me. I might need it in the future. Let it go.
Yeah.
Totally. And that's the integration piece. So once again, thank you for an enlightening conversation. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you.